Nosey Coworkers Meets Mischievous Boyfriend by WTF is a Brain. Chapter 7. Nightwing has a baby? Don't worry, it's not impreg. Nightwing happened to be on a mission with Green Lantern and Green Arrow. They were pretty chill most of the time, but lately all they asked about was what Batman was like to have as a dad. They asked dumb questions like, has he ever read you bedtime stories? Of course he had. What dad hadn't? And, has he ever gone to a PTA meeting? Obviously yes. Not super often, but enough times per kid. He didn't tell them about the others, though, not wanting to ruin their possible shenanigans. It was at this mission they saw Wally. He was working, in his work uniform, at a crime scene. Nightwing saw this as a perfect opportunity. He wasn't supposed to know Wally was Flash. Both Green Arrow and Green Lantern did. Nightwing approached Wally under the pretense of asking him a professional question. They shared a private conversation with their looks. Even from under Nightwing's domino, they seemed to say, I miss you, with the way they slightly leaned towards each other, and how their hands seemed to hover over each other's. If it wasn't for his costume and all the other civilians around, he might have given up on the scheme and kissed him in front of Lantern and Arrow. With a quick gesture that communicated, follow my lead, he winked under his domino, and took a more relaxed posture. He saw Green Arrow start to approach them with a file in his hand. So handsome. Have any clue as to who did this? Nightwing asked with an exaggerated smirk. Next to him, he felt Green Arrow stiffen. Well, we noticed these marks on the victims. Wally pointed to the picture in the file he was holding, and Nightwing got closer to him, almost looking over his shoulder. They don't look like any type of marks a human would leave, with or without a weapon. So I believe they might be animal marks, but we need an expert to tell animal marks. Wally kept going over the details of the file, and Nightwing paid close attention, while keeping contact with Wally, and asking questions like, do you think the attacker could be something other than an animal? Gorgeous? And making remarks like, wow, you really know your stuff, hot stuff. Listen, Nightwing never claimed to be good at flirting. He just lacks the fear of being embarrassed enough that he can be bad at flirting and somehow still bag Wally. Green Arrow seemed to be splitting his attention between listening to Wally and looking horrified at Nightwing's flirting. Maybe because he was so bad at it, but probably because he was flirting with Flash, not even knowing he was Flash. At some point, Green Lantern had joined them, and he seemed to be having the same internal struggle as Green Arrow. Thankfully, they were both listening enough to ask good and relevant to the mission questions. So they were not completely clueless when Wally blew them off to keep working on other parts of the scene. The mission went pretty well after that. Green Lantern and Green Arrow seemed to be itching with questions, but knowing his dad was Batman really put them off their nosy game. They still continued to talk and ask questions, just clearly none of the ones they actually wanted to ask. Wait, do you work with Batman in Gotham? Green Arrow asked. We've known him for so long. How come we didn't know you? Well, you do know how he has Robin as his partner, Nightwing asked. Even to this day, he never referred to Robin as his sidekick. Both of them nodded. I was the first Robin, so I guess you did know me. Both of the green-themed heroes seemed a little confused by the answer, but it did answer some questions. When they finally got to the watchtower after they finished the mission, they sat together at the table and put together a post-mission report. As they recalled the details of their mission, they seemed to remember their encounter with Wally, clearly filing information away for later. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure working with you, but I have to go feed my baby, Nightwing said with a smile. Nightwing relished in the bewildered looks of Green Arrow and Green Lantern for a second, before adding, and by baby, I mean my sweet little puppy. Of course. He quickly walked out, as he silently snickered at their faces. Chapter 8. Batman is socially constipated. What's new? Wait. So Nightwing just started flirting with civilian Flash? Aquaman asked. And we're sure he doesn't know Flash's secret identity. How could he? Of course he doesn't know. Green Lantern exclaimed. Maybe he just likes redheads and it's nothing personal? Captain Marvel asked a little hesitantly. Maybe, but that doesn't change the fact that he's a bit of a flirter. Green Lantern responded. Flirter? Aquaman asked under his breath, and Green Lantern shrugged, no longer wanting to call anyone, much less Batman's son, a whore. Even so, Nightwing looked pretty taken with Wally. It was kind of funny to watch. Green Arrow remarked. Well, in hindsight, obviously. In the moment, it was stressful. I kept thinking he would figure it out. Well, if he's into redheads, that still doesn't spell anything good for Flash. I hope his boyfriend is lenient about people flirting with him. Green Lantern says, maybe they end up fighting for him in the end. Now, there's something I would like to avoid. Dick Grayson and Nightwing fighting. Green Arrow grimaces. Waynes are nothing to mess with. I hope Nightwing is extra equipped if it comes to that. Don't be dramatic, guys. Arthur shrugs. It probably won't end up that way at all. You never know. Green Lantern said, maybe Nightwing is a giant homewrecker. Due to the laws of the universe and their favoritism of Dick Grayson. Let's pretend this is true for now. Batman entered the room as Green Lantern said his last statement. His co-workers calling his son a homewrecker was a new one. He didn't know what to do or say. They already knew he was Nightwing's parent, so what more could he do? It's not like that had stopped them from gossiping about him. He just stood there for a while, not really knowing what to say or do. This was a new situation for Batman. Sure, he had heard mean things said about his sons, but never under the cowl. Batman, I swear it's not what you think. Green Arrow said, seeing Green Lantern basically immobilized. Yeah, we were just joking. Green Lantern basically choked out, being caught off guard. It would just be funny if Nightwing were a homewrecker, but he wouldn't be, right? I mean, he's your son, and I'm sure you're a great example. It would never be a homewrecker because you're Batman, and not a homewrecker. Green Arrow kicked Green Lantern in the shin, and Green Lantern made a startled sound. Neither was really breathing, waiting for Batman to say something. Anything. That was all Batman said as he walked away. He picked up the files he came to get in the first place, and debated internally about what to say. As he walked towards the door, he looked back at the duo. He thought for a second longer, looking at them, but ultimately decided that he could never be lucid enough to even know where to start. He simply gave another grunt that sounded almost threatening, and walked out. Chapter 9. Double the Trouble. Watch out, Batman. Another perfect opportunity to mess with his dad came up when the Justice League decided to schedule a training session with Young Justice. The team Nightwing was partially responsible for, in a way. Nightwing had taken an unofficial role of mentor to Young Justice after the 10th time Robin had told him about another mission almost gone wrong due to a lack of real training. The day before the training session, Young Justice had set up an all-day hangout disguised as a meeting, and Nightwing had tagged along to make sure they were at least a little productive. After a review of common team moves that matched their abilities, they all sat on the common room couches, eating snacks, as a Penguin documentary, picked out by Bart, played in the background. Sissy was telling them about her recent encounter with a school bully, and they all gave her varying advice, like running around them really fast until they get dizzy, to erase all the documents of their existence and gaslighting them into thinking they're not real. This was when Nightwing realized the golden opportunity he had right in front of their eyes. When the conversation came to a lull, he finally took the floor. So, tomorrow you guys will have the opportunity to go against your mentors, and also, I have an ongoing private mission to mess with the Justice League, and I would appreciate your help. Nightwing smiled sweetly. Especially yours, Bart. The young team stared at Nightwing in varying degrees of hero worship, as he began explaining his grand plan. Of course, he left some things unsaid. After all, the only ones who knew his secret identity were Robin and Bart, and he didn't have clearance from Batman, or Robin, to tell them Robin and he were brothers. As far as they all knew, Nightwing was Robin's neighbor hero, who worked with Batman and Robin from time to time. And even though the Justice League knew he was related to Batman, they had been told by the man himself. Nightwing was not allowed to tell. However, as a result of Nightwing's closeness to Young Justice, they all knew he was dating Flash, and, again, only Bart and Robin knew Flash's secret identity. It's hard to hide your love life from your family members. Some of them seemed to be confused as to the nature of Nightwing's plan. They didn't really know where he was going with it. Only Robin knew the full extent of the plan, having been filled in after Wally had agreed to cooperate. Robin had just been happy someone else was pulling one over Batman's head. I don't understand. What does that accomplish? Sissy asked after a bit of pondering. The Justice League doesn't know I'm dating Flash. And, with a little nudge, they came to the conclusion that Flash is dating a civilian guy. Nightwing explained. I am simply changing their expectations around a little, and seeing what they do about it. Batman will know what you're doing, Robin added with a small smirk. He'll be too stunned to say anything about it, or too distracted training with you. Come on, help a guy out. Nightwing requested with a laugh. If you distract him, I'll make sure to get you footage of when they figure everything out. Robin raised his eyebrows and made an up gesture, asking for more. I'll make sure it's hypocritical enough that he can't argue with you about telling your team. Nightwing added, like a car salesman telling you how many watermelons your car can fit. Robin nodded once, with a smirk. Perfect. I also have a little advance payment. Nightwing turned on his phone, clicking a couple of buttons, and a video started playing on the TV. It was the video of the day Batman revealed Nightwing was his son to the Justice League. Young Justice watched intensely. They looked surprised to see Batman in such a state of distress. As soon as the video was done playing, Robin started laughing, almost like a madman possessed. The others looked at Nightwing surprised. So, if Batman is your dad, are you and Robin brothers? Superboy asked. Yup, Nightwing answered. Robin was still laughing, very out of breath. Is it okay that we know? Cassie asked. It's all in the technicalities. Neither Robin nor I are supposed to tell anyone. Only Batman can. Nightwing smiled conspiratorially. And technically, he told you, not me. Robin laughed even louder. Now, let's watch another movie. Nightwing leaned on Robin, with a little more familiarity than he ever had for the bird before. Let me pick. You're just gonna make me watch Howl's Moving Castle again. Robin complained. Oh, I love that movie! Sissy exclaimed. What movie is that? I've never heard of it. Greta and Superboy said at the same time. Well, now we have to watch it, Nightwing said, laughing into Robin's side even more. Chapter 10. Saving Civilians for Dummies. The training exercise started with individual training combat between heroes of similar capabilities. Robin against Batman, Impulse against Flash, Superboy against Superman, Wonder Girl against Wonder Woman, Arrowette against Green Arrow, Secret against Martian Manhunter, and Empress against Black Canary, as she didn't have a direct mentor. Nightwing walked around making sure no one was getting seriously hurt during the first training exercise, and making them take breaks to drink water and give them advice on how to defeat their specific opponent. Not that they needed it. These were their mentors. They had learned from them. And they knew how to fight against them. In these matches, the Justice League won most, but not all of the time. After that, there was a small break for everyone to drink water and talk in their own teams about their experiences fighting their elders, as a way of sharing information with possible future opponents. This was a tactic set up by Robin specifically for this training session. The next exercise was similar, but instead of fighting their closest league equivalent, they fought one-on-one against someone not so similar. Aquaman and Green Lantern were included in this round. Captain Marvel and Nightwing chatted with each other as they saw the match's process and declared winners. Overall, the mismatched matches go well, as now they can move on to the group exercises. For the group exercises, they had a simulation battle room, in which both groups needed a strategic approach. The room was a full simulation of a city, and the goal was for both groups to save as many civilians as possible. The civilians were dummies. Nightwing, Captain Marvel, and Green Lantern, to even out the disadvantage that came from the team size. At the end, the Justice League saved 20 dummies, Nightwing and Green Lantern, and Young Justice saved 24 dummies and Captain Marvel. They all sat down to debrief their strategies and count up their individual points gained by saving the dummies. Wonder Girl and Icarus had gotten Captain Marvel to their safe spot. Flash had gotten Nightwing, and Wonder Woman had gotten Green Lantern. The clicking of Robin and Batman's computer keyboards echoed in the room as the teams rewatched the training footage together. Nightwing commented on the different moves used by Young Justice and how they handled encounters with the Justice League. Everyone else was commenting on things they noticed and even added things they could have done better, or change about their approaches. Everyone had lots to add about the training program, with no inter-team comm lines. "Aw, saving your boyfriend?" Bart commented just loud enough for the Justice League to hear, and nudged Flash, as they watched the rescue footage of Flash getting Nightwing. On the screen, Flash was carrying Nightwing in a bridal carry, as they both smiled at each other and exchanged some inaudible words. Everyone pretended not to hear Impulse's comment, but from some of their very subtle reactions, Nightwing and Young Justice knew that they had all heard. Flash seemed to freeze a little, but played it off fast enough that most people in the room didn't notice. Now that all the pieces were in the right place, it was all just a waiting game from here, and Nightwing had all the time in the world, give or take an apocalypse. Chapter 11. And so it ends. A weird energy was stewing among the Justice League. It had been a week since their training session with Young Justice, and now they were all at the Watchtower. No one was speaking. Everyone seemed busy with their own type of busy work. The only ones missing from the room were Batman, who no one dared to ask the whereabouts of, and Flash, who was covering someone's shift at his job. Green Arrow was scrolling on his phone's socials, and that was when he saw Wally's last post. He shifted a little in his seat. Next to him, Captain Marvel glanced at his phone. "Oh, is he on a date with his boyfriend right now?" Captain Marvel asked. This was from 3 days ago, so 2 days after the joint session. Green Arrow responded. At this, Green Lantern looked up, never one to miss some gossip. "What are you talking about?" "Just saw Wally's latest post. He was on a date with Dick Grayson," Green Arrow said. "Didn't Impulse say something about Flash and Nightwing dating?" Aquaman asked. "I assumed he had broken up with Dick Grayson." "Well, the caption says, 'Happy wife, happy life,'" Green Arrow said. "Oh, they're married?" Captain Marvel asked, and a couple looked at him weirdly. "Probably not, it's just a saying," Black Canary remarked. "It does imply they're still dating." Everyone stayed silent for a bit, to the background sound of Superman scribbling madly on a piece of paper, and the music playing softly in the background. "So, are Nightwing and Flash cheating?" "They have to be," Green Arrow said. "If they don't have something going on, why would Impulse say that? He's Wally's cousin, and they live together at times. If anyone knows Nightwing and Flash are together, it'd be him. We can't jump to that conclusion." Superman finally joined the conversation. "It's probably just a misunderstanding. They're cousins. It's probably an inside joke or something." "I don't think it is. He very clearly called Nightwing Flash's boyfriend," Green Lantern said. "I'm sure you heard it with your super hearing. We have to do something," Green Arrow said. "If this becomes public, it won't just be bad for Dick Grayson. It'll be bad for the Justice League." "That's true. The image of the League would be dragged through the mud," Aquaman added. "So what? We just go up to Flash and tell him to get his shit together?" Black Canary asked. "Well, we have to say something to Nightwing too, then," Captain Marvel said. "Yeah, but Spooky is gonna be all up our asses," Green Lantern said. "Although, I agree, just because he's Spooky's kid doesn't mean we shouldn't talk to him about it." Little did they know, Batman had been listening to their conversation as he worked in the next room over. He had decided he needed to stop them from pulling an intervention before they actually talked to his son and boyfriend. He didn't really want to deal with the aftermath of the intervention. He knew Dick would be distressed by it, and would be weird around the Justice League. He didn't know how he was going to stop it. All he knew was that he could not put it off for later. He needed to do this right now. So, with a burst of fatherly protectiveness, he stood up and walked towards the door connecting the rooms. As he opened the door, the members of the League turned towards the sound, and more than one of them turned pale at the sight of him. "I know what you are planning," Batman grumbled. "Don't." Everything he said tended to sound like a threat, but no one knew just how uncomfortable talking in the suit made him. When he was around his kids, he didn't need to communicate verbally with them too much, so with the League, it felt like a great effort to put his thoughts into words. And that's without mentioning his emotions, because they couldn't read his micro-expressions, and he was not going to translate them to the League. The League tensed at his statement, and everything was quiet for a moment, just as Batman had decided they probably wouldn't do anything now, and was about to leave the room. Green Lantern spoke up. "Listen, Spooky, this is nothing against you or your kid," He gestured. But it really would look bad for the League if this were to become a public scandal. And just because Nightwing is your kid doesn't mean we should ignore the fact that he's having an affair. It's also not fair to Dick Grayson, Captain Marvel added. I would feel bad if he found out later and all of us knew and didn't say anything about it. There will be no scandal. Batman growled. How would you know? Green Arrow asked. If I know anything, it's that the Waynes are always up for a scandal. That's true, Green Lantern said. Batman just stood there for a second or two. He knew this was exactly what Dick wanted, and as much as he didn't want to just follow like sheep in Dick's plan, he could not really see a different way out of this, without sounding like the worst father in the world, and keeping all his secrets intact. He huffed a little as he reached up for his cowl. The whole room stood still, not sure why Batman was reaching for his cowl at a moment like this. Some of them thought he had a memory-erasing device in his cowl, like Men in Black. Others were just completely lost for words. As Batman pulled the edges of his cowl away from his face, like taking off a hood, beneath the cowl was the icy blue eyes of... Bruce Wayne? Green Arrow and Black Canary screamed. You do not need to worry about a scandal, Bruce said, still using his Batman voice, which threw most of them off. This changes nothing, Green Lantern said. It makes it worse. One of your kids is having an affair with your other kid's boyfriend, and you're not going to do anything about it? Bruce sighed as they all looked at him expectantly, waiting for him to explain what they were missing. Nightwing is Dick Grayson, Bruce said, a little closer to the normal tone he would use to tell his kids not to eat something they're allergic to. Everyone seemed to hold their breath. It made so much sense, and yet none of them had seen it. Nightwing said Flash was dating Dick Grayson, Green Lantern said. He didn't lie. Superman deadpanned, realizing everything. Batman decided that he had said enough words to his co-workers for today, and walked out of the room. He could already hear his kids laughing at him. Chapter 11 notes. I hope you guys enjoyed reading this as much as I enjoyed writing it. ISTY. I felt like a man possessed writing this, and laughing like crazy. I might write a couple of scenes of the aftermath with the Bat Fam, Bird Flash, and maybe even what it means for Robin as the leader of Young Justice. But as of now, this fic is complete. If you enjoyed this fic, you can go down to the description below and follow the link to the author's original work. Leave them many comments and kudos. If you enjoyed this reading, you can subscribe if you want, or go down to the comments below and tell me what else I should read, especially if it's Yuri. Have a great day. Nightwing is Bruce Wayne?